Hey everyone, it's Annie. Um, I don't really have an agenda. I kind of just wanted to share some things that are on my heart, on my mind, um, about the conference that I went to this weekend, how I came about. This is weird. Sorry, I've never made a video like this before. Um, how I came about going to that conference, some things I experienced there. And I don't know, just kind of share a couple of things I've been thinking. And um, Thursday night, I was sitting in the common area of my apartment complex doing homework. It's pretty late at night, maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock. I don't really remember. Um, a group of guys walk up to the door, the outside. I will admit that I was very judgmental. I thought that they were younger than they ended up being at first, but I saw one of them carrying something that I mistook for a skateboard. For whatever reason, thinking that they had a skateboard made them infinitely more annoying than they would have been without the skateboard. No offense to people who skateboard. Um, anyway, they came to the common area. I was super judgmental. I thought to myself, who let you borrow the key to get in here? There's no way that you live here. Maybe you go to Mary Washington, but if you do, you probably don't live here. They came in there. I started getting really disgruntled internally. I thought that they were going to distract me from my homework. It was already late at night. I'm working long hours. I have a lot of homework to do. I'm in the process of interviewing for jobs at my work, and long story short, it was a stressful time. Um, One of them starts to tune a guitar, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not what I thought it was. It's a guitar, not a skateboard. Um, the other one's just kind of talking. One of them has like a shaker egg, that you hear in the background of music. Um, so I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad. Keep working on my homework. They set up what I assume is a camera. I can just hear them talking about, I don't know if they're like in a chat room or doing a video broadcast or what, but one of them's like, Laura in Ohio wants you to play this song, and Francisco from I don't know where. I can tell that they're talking to people from other areas through like an online broadcast. So eventually they start playing music. It's beautiful. You probably saw a little 12-second clip that I recorded of it. It was really beautiful. I was very glad to be there to hear it. It was a sweet moment. Um, I decided that while I didn't go to the common area for the purpose of hearing worship music, it was okay that I did. It was beautiful. I started to think that life is interesting and mysterious things happen. Whatever. I'm not trying to say it was a sign. I just thought it was interesting timing. My schedule just changed recently at work, so normally I would have been at work at that time. I've been working 3:45 to midnight, but I work 8 to 4 now while I'm applying for jobs in our corporate office. So my schedule changed this week. I really never go to the clubhouse, to the common area. Um, I've lived here for 5 months, 6 months almost, and I've been there, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 times. So I started to think, maybe I'm in the right place at the right time just to hear this, to experience this tonight, and I was thankful for that. Something they said triggered my realization that I probably knew someone that they knew. So I texted this person, hi Nathan, texted Nathan Bye, for anyone from home who knows him. I said, I think I know some guys that you know. Sorry, I just hit my computer. I think I know some guys that you know. They're playing music. I'm here doing my homework. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk to them before they go, but I wanted to share with you, this special moment because I'm really glad that I was able to hear them playing their music. And there's something really refreshing about seeing three young guys out together, just playing music, just, in a public place, playing music, and enjoying one another's company in a friendly way that, doesn't involve gross humor or, I don't know, alcohol, drugs, whatever. It was really refreshing. I text him, I'm like, just wanted to say that this is what I experienced. If you talk to them, let them know I really appreciated it. So I'm torn whether I'm going to talk to them or not before they go. And they're on their way out, and one of them says, hey, I hope that we didn't interrupt you too much. I hope we weren't too much of a distraction. So I'm like, no, it was great. It was beautiful. It was really lovely. And then I decide to share with them that I think I know someone that they know. And they're like, who is it? I'm like, Nathan Vi. Yeah, we know Nathan. Nathan's awesome. So we chit-chat a little bit, and they invite me to this conference that their church is having, starting the next day, Friday, all weekend. I'm like, yeah, I'll consider it. Maybe I'll join you guys. So they're like, yeah, it starts at 7. Maybe Nate can get you in, get a ticket, because, I don't know, maybe it was going to be busy or something. Long story short, I later learned that when they left there, I ran into them this weekend at the conference, and one of them said, usually when we tell people about that, they don't actually go, and then they told me that when they left the common area, that they said to themselves, like, hey, I think she might actually show up this weekend. I think she might actually really go, and I did. So I decided, why not? Why not go? What is it that I'm afraid of? What is it I'm avoiding? What is it that I am so averse to? I spent all day the next day thinking about it. I came up with a lot of things, a lot of reasons why I shouldn't go, namely that I don't really claim the Christian faith anymore, but other things like, I'm gay, I don't want to hear anyone preach at me, I have a bad mouth, like I say a lot of bad words, it'll be awkward, I don't know anyone, so on and so on. I ultimately decide I don't actually have a really good reason not to go, not one that satisfies me anyway, not one that I can't overcome. So I decide that I'm going to go. I'm going to take from this what I can. What are the chances that I even would have run into these guys? What are the chances that they would have been having a conference the next day? What are the chances that I was in the common area? So I start to think, maybe there's a reason I'm here at this moment. Maybe there's a reason they're inviting me to this. So rather than cut myself off from that, I decide to go. Decide I'm going to learn whatever I can. Whatever's there for me to learn, I'm going to soak it in. I'm going to take from it what I can identify with. And that's that. Maybe there's something waiting for me there. So I go Friday night. I'm already at 10 minutes. Holy cow. I go Friday night. I meet someone. Her name's Cora. Hi, Cora. You're not my Facebook friend. I don't know how you'll be watching this, but whatever. I meet my friend Nathan's friend Cora. She's wonderful. I pick a random seat inside, and it ends up being the row right behind her. She invites me to sit with her, so I sit with her through the first night, and there's this great evangelist guy there. His name's Todd White. I wasn't familiar with him. I don't know how many of you will be, but I guess he's rather famous in evangelistic circles. And he's the keynote speaker. So there's like a really long worship time, music, for maybe, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half. I'm not really singing the songs because I don't want to be hypocritical. I don't want to be like, God, fill me with the Spirit. Let your word be known across the whole land. I don't want to be singing that if that's not really what I want. I don't want to be singing the songs just to be a participant, just to look like I, belong there. So I don't really sing at all. And I go through this hour, hour and a half long worship session, just kind of looking around, soaking it all in, feeling really nostalgic for my church life at home, in the past. I have a lot of memories just flooding me, a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. I'm crying in and out because it's just overwhelming. Remembering, this used to be my life. This used to be what I lived for every day. I was desperate to be at church every day. I was desperate for a worship session like this, and I was just overwhelmed by that experience. Anyway, the speaker eventually starts speaking, and he's this crazy, energetic, super charismatic guy with, like, dreads 4 feet long. Like, I don't even know how he holds his head up because his hair has to be so heavy, but wearing, like, excuse me for using this word, bedazzled jeans. But, like, I can tell they're, like, designer jeans. They have, like, rhinestones on them and, like, fancy stitching. He's got these shoes on that don't even make sense to me. I don't even know where they came from. He's got this obnoxious button-up shirt on. Like, he just screams, like, LA. Like, LA money. That's what he looks like. So he's got these huge dreads. And he's this big guy. He's a big dude. And he's, like, all out, like, on fire for what he believes. And it's kind of intoxicating because there's no skepticism. There's no ounce of, but this, but that. There's none of it. He's just all out, 100%, 1,000% committed to what it is he's saying. And he tells this story about his hard life. Really, really, really traumatic. Really sad life, drug addiction for 22 years, bad relationships with a bad relationship with his girlfriend, mistreating his kid, all these really sad things, being rejected by his mom, just feeling like he didn't have a home growing up, a lot of things. And he tells a story about, finding God, whatever that means. Essentially, coming to the realization of what God says he is versus who he thinks he is or what he thinks he's worth. And he lives in this space where God says he's precious and that he is so loved. He lives in the space of being loved by God, by Jesus. And his message is not about legalism. It's not about the church, capital T, capital C, the church. It's not about any of that. It's just about what it means to be told who you are and what you're worth by your Creator. To be in this space where you're so precious and so complete and so loved. To be in this space where laying down your life means your past, it stops now. Your life stops now. Laying down your life means your past is just that. It's the past. You pick it up from scratch, you know, from the moment that you give your life to God, whatever. I'm not here to preach. So his message is really refreshing. It's challenging to me. I can identify with, I can recognize a lot of it. I can recognize a lot of it from the past. I can't say that I identify with it. I can recognize a lot of it. He's preaching this message that perfectly summarizes what church always was to me, which was a community, was this body of people who were all about loving people because that's what they saw Jesus doing. The problem with that is once you are away from the church, you realize that you think that you're loving people, but the people you think you're loving don't think you're loving them. They don't read your love as love. They read it as a lot of other things, and your message becomes lost. Because you think that you're loving them. You think that you're doing the right thing. Anyway, I'll get there later. So this message is beautiful. You know, I'm crying in and out still. I'm sorting through all of these thoughts and questions and memories that are flooding me. And it was a difficult night, but a good one. I decide I'm going to go back the next day, even though I have a lot of homework this weekend. I have a paper that's due in 5.5 hours. I'm working overtime tonight. I worked overtime yesterday. The point is, I have a lot to do, and I decide anyway that I'm going to go back to this conference on Saturday night. So the conference on Saturday night is a little bit different. It feels more like church. It feels more like, I don't know how to say it. It's less come as you are. Jesus is this great dude who set a great example of joy and love and humility and service. It's more give yourself away, give your heart to God, you know, and I've been through many conferences. I know that that's what they do. I know that's how they work. They grab you the first night, they try to save you the second night, then on Sunday you come to church this brand new person and you celebrate being reborn in God. I know that's the flow. But I wasn't there for that. I wasn't giving my heart away to God. I was there to take from it what I could and see, you know, what it was that spoke to me. To be honest, I was curious what it would feel like. I haven't been to church in 5 years, so anyway, these things started happening that I was judgmental toward. Just really extreme sort of religious behavior. That's the best way I know how to describe it. It's a lot of speaking in tongues, which, I don't know. I think that the Bible says one thing about speaking in tongues. I don't know necessarily that it's just this thing that people turn on. I don't know. That's neither here nor there, but a lot of people, I guess, just, you know, speaking in tongues, whether they really were or they grew up in this environment where they have learned to, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to pass more judgment than I already have. And this speaker comes, he's really loud, and he's, God is fire, and God is this, and today's the moment, and give yourself away now, and stop waiting for a revolution, and da-da-da-da-da, you know, just really intense. Granted, this is aimed at college students and high school students, so they're impressionable. They're on college campuses. The point of the conference is to have a student awakening across America on college campuses to turn, you know, students back to Christ, whatever that means. So the message has a particular audience, and I'm not really a member of that audience. But it's extreme. It's a really intense, extreme message. And there's this, I don't know, altar call at the end. And the speaker, Randy, I think was his name, very charismatic. And he calls on the staff members and the leaders of the church and the prayer furnace. I think that's what it's called, prayer furnace. Yeah. If you're familiar with IHOP in Kansas City, 24/7 prayer and worship, there is a sister community here in Fredericksburg, very similar to it. Anyway, I hadn't ever experienced this kind of church. I don't really know how to describe it, but people dancing in the halls, in the aisles, and just laying on the floor, and Randy, the preacher, has this altar call, or for lack of a better term, people come forward, and they're like just so ready, I guess, to commit to, being part of the student awakening and giving their lives to Christ. And he calls on the staff members to come around and lay hands on people to pray for them, and then this thing starts happening that I felt like I was making a documentary in my mind of cult-like church behavior. I don't mean that in an ugly way, I just mean it was so foreign to me. And I've watched some documentaries on Netflix or whatever where you just see these groups of people like in all-out worship, and they're falling and they're flailing and they're yelling and they're speaking in tongues and they're singing, and there's so much going on, and their eyes are closed and their eyes are rolling in the back of their head, and if you aren't in it, you just don't get it. You think that it's weird and you can't figure it out, and you're like, is it real? Is it drama? Is it both? Like, is this 7-year-old literally possessed by some spirit right now? Or is he trembling because he sees his 17-year-old brother doing it and he thinks that's what someone who really loves God does? I don't know, I have all these thoughts going through my head, and this preacher is holding people's heads and shaking them and shaking his head, and there's sweat flying everywhere, and he's pushing his hand into people's chests and they're falling all over the ground, and tongues and prayer music, and just there's so much going on, and it's so overwhelming and so confusing, and I don't really know what to make of it. It doesn't really sit well with me. It seems authentic, but then I see people falling on the ground, I guess, because they're overwhelmed by the Spirit, but then as they're falling, they're, conscious of the fact that their shirt's coming up, so they're pulling it down, or, they're conscious of the fact that their pants are falling down, so they grab their pants, but you're, possessed by the Spirit and you're falling. So if you're possessed by the Spirit and you're falling, you probably wouldn't be conscious of your pants falling down. I don't know. It's just really weird. And I can't really sort out, what parts of it are authentic, and maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's authentic because they believe that it is authentic. Maybe I'm not the one who's meant to classify it as authentic or inauthentic. But regardless, I can't make sense of it. And it's weird. Makes me uncomfortable. But I remember that I could leave anytime, and I don't. I stay there for hours. Both nights I was there till 11 p.m. or later, and it started at 7 both nights, so that's a long time. I could have left any time, and I'll admit to staying as long as I did out of reverence. I didn't want to seem like the token non-Christian lesbian in the room leaving when it got weird or when it got real. So I stay until I can't stay anymore, because I'm witnessing a lot of things that I can't relate to, and I almost feel intrusive. I start to feel like I shouldn't be looking around, I shouldn't be watching people be baptized in the Spirit or whatever it is that's going on. I feel really intrusive. So I leave. And my plan all along was to go, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If I decided to go, then I would go for the whole thing. So I decided to come to church. I'm at 25 minutes already, and this is where it gets good. So I decide that I'm going to go to church. Church. Not like conference church. Church. At the place where this conference is being held. And I do, and there's music. It lasts about an hour, which is a long time to be standing there not singing songs and not, worshiping and just really trying to take from the moment what I can and be respectful of and reverent for the parts that I can't. And so this goes on for, I don't know, an hour. We sit down, some announcements are made. Like, okay, this is pretty familiar. Like, I know how this works. I know how church goes. An offering goes around. And then someone announces a speaker or a pastor. I don't know what his title is. I can't remember. Isaiah. One of those names was his name, I believe. So he comes up to preach, and the person who introduces him says, this guy has 25, I think he's being hyperbolic, 25 ministries, some other irrelevant details. Isaiah's passion is reaching the LGBT community. So I'm like, oh, here we go. But I'm like, okay, I'll stay. I'll stay. I'll do something crazy and just stay. So I stay. The person who introduces him is like, make sure you tell the story about the Wailing Wall. And he's like, okay. So he starts speaking. Tells the story about praying and I don't know. I guess he was praying somewhere. And he hears this voice in his ear that says, they like pink. And he's like, what, God? What? Who likes pink? Who's wearing pink? Blah, blah, blah. He hears it again. They like pink. Again, who likes pink? What? I can't figure this out. Again, Isaac. They like pink, or Isaiah, whatever his name is. They like pink. So I'm like, Jesus, this story is already off to a really bad start because I know where you're going, which is now to start talking about gay men and them liking pink, and I'm already pissed off because I'm pissed off. But I stay. I decide I can stay. And I will. I'll stay. So I do. And the story just evolves into this wall with people's names on it and celebrities' names, and he's naming person after person after person, and then this wall had Ellen DeGeneres' name on it. I'm like, God, what a convenient name. Only the most well-known lesbian in the history of lesbians. Poster child for homosexuality. And he's talking about this wall. I don't know if it was real. I honestly can't remember. With Ellen DeGeneres' name on it. And people are praying for Ellen DeGeneres, and he prays for this intercession in her life, and prays for her to leave the lifestyle and abandon the agenda and leave her sin behind. And he tells this story about how all these people in his life come together at this one moment. They actually have contacts with her, and he meets one of her relatives who's been praying for her for 2 decades, and he meets someone who just got a contract with her media team, and blah blah blah, all of these things colliding together. By the way, he works for the NRA and is a lumberjack. I'm already trying not to be judgmental, but I was. So he's talking about how he's praying for Ellen DeGeneres, and how great would it be if the LGBT leaders themselves rose up and left the lifestyle and other stuff. Then he says he sees this wailing wall with people's names on it that they're interceding for, praying for, and then he has this vision of those names translating or transmitting over to another wall of people who have been saved, and Ellen's name appears on that wall, and this guy he knows just bought a t-shirt press, and so they find out that the Gay Olympics is taking place where they live in Ohio, and they make all these pink t-shirts that say God likes me, and they go to this event, and now they have this ministry out of going to large-scale LGBT events and ministering to them. And the whole time, the story just gets more and more and more hurtful, and I'm sitting there, and it takes everything that I have not to get up and say something, and I was so close to asking if I could have the mic for a minute, but I wanted to be respectful of people's place of worship, and I know that I am a guest in their house, and I have this hurt and anger and sadness, borderline rage welling up inside, and it takes everything I have not to leave. For some reason I stay. I decide I'm gonna hear it out. I'm gonna hear the story out. But it gets worse. They talk about other events that they go to, and the 4 people at this giant event that they save, and how they abandoned their lifestyle and their sin, and how the queer community is reachable. And he tells a story about meeting a guy whose now sister is living a transgender lifestyle, and how he was praying for this man. And he says, I used to be homophobic, and I'm like, you still are? It's terrifying that you think that you used to be. And then some time passes, the story continues about how our nation passed legislation in this specific time to afford the LGBT community to join together in legal union. And my anger and my hurt are growing exponentially by the minute. And these are really tender moments. They're quiet. There's music going in the background really lightly. There's this charismatic speaker talking to a population of people who share his opinions, who share his passion for reaching the LGBT community. And then there's me, this outsider so he calls people, another altar call, for lack of a better word. He calls people to the front who believe that the Spirit is compelling them to heal LGBT people. he calls them to the front so that people can lay hands on them to bless them in their mission to save me, us, people like me. And so many people go to the front, and so many people are, I really believe, very convicted. And he asks for the staff members to go to the front to pray for these people who are expressing that they feel convicted to reach out to people like me, to the LGBT community. And here I am in this congregation sitting in the middle of it, and I'm just thinking, like, what fools. And I stay. For some reason, I stay. And then this lady walks up on the stage, and has her Bible, and she says, I have a specific prayer that I'd like to give for people in the LGBT community, and I can't, at that point, I can't anymore. I can't do it. I've spent, 40 minutes listening to someone belittle and criticize me, and it's apparent that it's just me in the congregation. Not saying that he was speaking directly to me. So the lady comes up to the stage, and she starts to deliver this prayer, reading from the Bible. And I just leave. I start to leave. I grab my things. I'm sitting beside my new friend Cora, beside my old friend Nathan. I'm in this place where, at this point, I've spent 10 hours of my weekend. And I can't. I have to go. I have to go because it's so hurtful and so ugly. And I'm angry and I'm hurt in my bones. So I leave. On my way out, my new friend Cora grabs me and says, hey, let's get lunch or dinner later this week with Nate. While I'm talking to her, on my way out, the college pastor for the area within this church, he works with the college-age students and I suppose does ministry on college campuses in the region. He comes to me and he says, hey, my name's Micah, and I knew who he was. I introduced myself to him. And he says, can you tell me about how you ended up here? Nathan told me a little bit, but I'd like to hear from you, so I tell him the story. I've just spent 20 of the last 40 minutes telling you guys. And then he says, I'm glad that you came this weekend. And I say, I'm glad that I came too on Friday and Saturday, but I regret coming today. I feel like I have undone any progress that I made in sorting out my thoughts. I feel like any healing that I may have had over my past is undone. I feel like I have just been ambushed with something toxic and something hateful. But I know that that's not what he meant by it. I know that's not what they meant by it. I have decided at this point I won't go back there. Which is heartbreaking because I thought for a second I might have found a good community. Something I've been looking for a long time. As we talk a little bit, I say that I'm hurt by what I heard today, that the church doesn't understand people like me. I tell him that I grew up in the church, not just going on Sundays, but going 4 nights a week. I grew up memorizing books of the Bible. I grew up sold out to God and Jesus, and I do this because I want him to know I have some credibility in the church. I'm not someone who was an occasional participant. I tell him I went to school at a Christian school my freshman year, that I wanted to be a youth pastor, similar to him. But I'm gay. And I tell him this heartbreaking truth, which is that I didn't leave the church. I slipped out the back door over 2 years. Step by step by step. I didn't wake up one morning and decide that I was gay and rebuke my faith. And that was it. I started having questions that I didn't have answers to, and that no one around me had answers to, and that the Bible didn't have answers to. And I slipped away. Only when I slipped away was I free to explore and honor who I am, what I am. A gay woman, lesbian. That's who I am, that's what I am, that's me, that's a part of me. It's not all of me. I tell him that the message that they have is drowned out by their mission. The message of love and community, kindness, service, humility. All of those beautiful lessons that I learned growing up in church. All of those things that taught me how to be. All of those qualities that I want to share with other people. Kindness, compassion, patience, love. That message is drowned out by people wanting to save us. People wanting us to turn away from sin. People wanting us to rebuke something so innate. I tell him that asking me to rebuke my homosexuality is akin to asking a black man to rebuke the color of his skin. I can't do it. I can't, and I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to do it to qualify. I shouldn't have to do it to be deserving. More than I shouldn't have to, though, I can't. And I won't. And I tell him that I've lived these polar extremes. I've lived at the end of one end of this paradigm. I've lived a sold out life for God where I really had the best of intentions and I really thought that I loved people. And I did. I didn't realize why it seems as though the church doesn't love people when I was part of the church. I only realized that after I left the church. But I did. I loved people the best way I knew how, which was to love them to Christ, to love them the way I was being loved at my church. We mimic what we see. I lost my train of thought. I tell him about how I've lived at the opposite ends of this path. I've lived the church life. And now I live an authentic life. And I feel like I shouldn't have to exist at one end of that path or another. I feel like I should have a space in between. I feel like I should have freedom to exist in the middle somewhere. And I don't. And it's not just me, it's people like me. And I say, if you love us, and I believe that you do, if you love us, help us. I tell him that our suicide rates are exponentially higher than any other subpopulation. I tell him that our rates of homelessness, especially in young people, are so high. It's a mystery. Those people live to see another day. I tell him our families abandon us. I tell him we're isolated. I tell him we are a group of people ripe for someone, ripe for love like they want to offer. I tell him we're a group of people that also love each other, that have internalized and come together to help one another survive. I tell him that's real life. I tell him loving people like me, loving the LGBT community doesn't mean showing them God and asking them to convert themselves. It doesn't mean saving lost souls. It doesn't mean abandoning an agenda. It doesn't mean transforming your lifestyle. It means giving us a home. It means giving us a community. It means sharing your family. It means serving people who need love like you want to give them. I tell him that the Jesus that I know in the Bible speaks for himself. The things Jesus did, the things you would find Jesus doing, they speak for themselves. The message of God speaks for itself. You don't need the extraneous, creepy, intense conversion effort. Ultimately, we decide that we don't agree theologically. Those are his words. I would say that we do have different theologies, but fundamentally we share a passion for love, a passion for seeing people in need. And it's a shame that our communities can't coexist, that we can't all work together to give homes to the homeless, that we can't all work together for suicide prevention, that we can't all work together to reform education in schools, that we can't all work together for a common good. He tells me that he lives in town and I'm always welcome to come to dinner or hang out with his family, and that he loves people, they love people, even though we disagree. I don't hold it against him because I know that he genuinely loves people. I believe that. I believe that he believes that. But until you're outside of the church, you don't understand that when you say you love someone, that's not what that person hears. In my case, it's not enough to say that you love me, because I don't want to share dinner with you when you think that something about me is fundamentally wrong. It's not enough for you to just say that it doesn't matter that we disagree. I can come over for dinner anytime. It's the elephant in the room. It's the thing that will always stand between your total acceptance of me. This video is way longer than I ever thought that I would make it, but I wanted to share because a lot of the people that I know haven't ever heard me talk about this. It was just this thing that happened over time. Annie, the promising, good Christian girl, left the church, and now she's gay, and now she doesn't go to church. And people still tell my mom that they're praying for me. People still ask my mom cryptic questions about whether I'm still a lesbian. Yes, I am a lesbian. No, I'm not going to change. No, I'm not going through a phase. Yes, I miss you. Yes, I miss my community. I miss my family. Yes, it breaks my heart that you don't love me the same way anymore. Yes, it breaks my heart that you still ask my mom about me. But I know that you mean well. I know that you love me in the best way you know how. I feel like I need to have some grand way to wrap this message up, but I don't. All I am really left with is you have a message. Don't forget who your message is for. Your message isn't for the people who think the same as you. Your message isn't for the people who feel the same way, who share the same thoughts, who love the same way. Your message is for the person that you're loving. Don't isolate them. Don't hurt them. Don't confuse them. Don't make them leave like I did today. Don't make them never come back. Stop trying to save our souls, because guess what? We're not asking you to. We don't want you to. We want you to love us and acknowledge us and see that we are good people. We love just like you do. We do good things for the world just like you do. We volunteer. We take people in. We give them love. We give them homes. We give them money. We give them food. We love each other. Some of us go to church. Some of us love God too. Some of us are lucky enough to reconcile all of this somehow, some way. Maybe one day I'll get there. For people who know me from home, my heart is broken every day because I can't sort this out. My heart is broken every day because I miss my community, my home. My heart is broken every day because you used to love me a lot, and then you found out something about me, or I expressed something about myself that was always there, that was always true. And I don't feel invited to your love anymore. I don't feel the same acceptance and love. There are people in your life living a lifestyle, if that's what you insist on calling it. There are people in your life like me, and you will never reach us. You won't reach us. If you don't let your message speak for itself, if you don't love first, if you don't accept first, if you don't reach out first, stop trying to do it the backwards way. Stop trying to save us at all. Just love us. And not love us because you have to, because that's what God says you have to do. Love us because you believe there's nothing intrinsically wrong with us, and that it's okay at the end of the day to go to bed gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender and wake up the next morning the same way. Yes, that's it. I love you guys a lot. I miss all of you. I thank you for what you are. Hey, so my computer died. This is me, so I really just wanted to, I was done. I really just wanted to say thank you to a lot of you guys who've been a really big part of my life, in the past. You still are in my present. I think of you often. Kathy Diggins, Sandy Bazan, my mom, Kim Spears, Julie Miller, God, Teresa Dingus. I mean, Jeff, Terry, the list goes on and on. Caitlin, Binda, Bromar, Jamie Hewitt. I could sit here all day and name people that are incredibly special to me from my past and when I used to go to church regularly and when I lived a little bit of a different life, a little bit of a different way than I do now. When I was part of a different community in the past, I think of you very, very frequently. I really appreciate, what you have done in my life and what you represent for me, all the ways that you love me, especially as I was growing up. I really needed your community, and I had a great community. I miss you very much. I miss my family, my church family. I often feel very estranged from a lot of important people that that raised me alongside my mom. I love you, and I hope that I hope that there's a space where we can coexist, where I can be authentic, I can be my real self, I can be what I am, do what I do, love who I love, and not be on your radar as a target, as a sinful person, as someone who needs saving. I hope one day for that. I love you just the same, I really do. So thank you for loving me in all the ways that you do and all the ways that you did and in the best way you know how. And I don't take any of that for granted. So thank you guys a lot. If any of you have similar life experiences, are grappling with any of the same things, I think of all this pretty frequently, and I'd love to talk. I'd love for you to reach out. You can send me a Facebook message. I'm really garbage with Facebook messaging, but text me. I don't know. Send me your number over Facebook message. I'll reach out to you. Call me. Send me snail mail. Whatever it is. I'd love to know, that I'm not the only one grappling with the kind of things I am. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and if you're still there an hour after I first started talking, then thank you for listening, and I love you all. Thanks so much. Bye.